brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking hosts, the good old boys. Suds, Suds, Suds. It's time for more Suds.
Hello and welcome to Sip, Suds, and Smokes. This is good old boy Mike. And today our Suds segment is a brewery takeover with the Brurey out of Anaheim, California. Today we will be talking about everything good in life that is worth discussing. Here today, the hosts that I have with me are good old boy Jim.
Hello.
The most solemn hello I've ever heard. Is your microphone working? Do I need to give you more beer? Is that it?
No. I'm good.
Reverend Mark.
Hello.
And good old boy Jonathan.
Hello.
Our Sud segments are all about beer, and more beer. And today's beers are going to be from the Brurey. And we have 5 beers that we're going to go over. The first one is called Bryeian. And this beer was actually created by 2 homebrewers, and just really quite amazing that a couple of homebrewers have made this beer itself. Brian Promoff and Brian Case of Denver, Colorado, made the Batch 1000 in a homebrew competition, and this is a dark hoppy rye ale. I'm sure we'll talk about this quite a bit today. The second beer we're having is actually Saison Rue, which is a Saison, and it's probably named after the founder, Patrick Rue. It's a Belgian style with rye and bread, and it's a deep rustic golden color. We'll talk about this more today as well. There's the Tart of Darkness, which is a sour wild ale that we had as well. This is probably a stout that was applied with a sour or wild ale to it. The brewery's Mischief, which is a Belgian strong ale. It's a Belgian strong ale, golden and hoppy. It's not quite evil and not to be trusted, is the way they've described it. And the last beer we're tasting today is the brewery's White Oak. So those are the beers that it's a barley wine, actually, which I don't know that I would classify it as that, but anyway, it was a wheat wine that they applied within a oaked aged barrel. So those are the beers we have to go through today, and good old boy Jonathan is telling us what we're going to be doing as we talk about these.
All right, we will be tasting and discussing these beers and rating them with our beer ratings plus our signature belch sounds. And here are those ratings now. Number 1, that sucks. Give me anything but a bud.
I think that's Jonathan's favorite.
Yeah, that's a good one. Number 2 is, was that a belch? Number 3, what a relief. Number 4, a body really should not make that sound. And number 5, listen to that hang time and give me another.
Excellent. Thank you, good old boy Jonathan, for setting us up today. We're going to be talking about, so what we're going to be doing is going in a round table and talking about our top 3 of these beers, and I'm sure that each of us will be chiming in about some of our own comments about each of these as we go along. We'll start right here with good old boy Jim. What are some of your top 3 here, good old boy Jim?
My top 3 of the 5 that you mentioned would be in order 3, 2, 1. Mischief 3, Saison Rue 2, and the whatever we're calling it, it's got about 16 names. The Batch 1000, the Bryeian homebrew would be my number 1.
I caught myself real quick, and I'm sorry. I wanted to talk a little bit about the brewery before we get around. I'm sorry, Uncle Jim.
That's okay.
Oh, man. Yeah. Can't believe I did that. Uncle Jim.
I'm not there yet.
It's the holiday season.
Yeah, I tell you. If you another beer, that's what I need to do. All right. The brewery is in Anaheim, California, is where they're based out of. And I want to talk a little bit about the history of the brewery before we got around. And I'm sorry, I meant to do this before we got around the table here. It's actually founded through a homebrew process with Patrick Rue and his wife Rachel are the ones that actually created the brewery itself. And, it looks like Patrick's go-to beer was actually a amber ale with Cascade hops. And, he actually decided to go through the process of being a lawyer and decided this was not for him and actually turned into a brewer. I can really relate to this. So, so it's really great that they've really been producing a lot of excellent beers since then. I believe that they've been brewing for about 6 years now, is how long they've been going. And they're really pushing a lot of the envelope of the concept of bottle conditioning. And part of what they're doing is really using a lot of concepts that are used in other fermentation, especially champagne, where second fermentation actually takes place in the bottle, that they're applying here with beer as well. So they've really creating some very innovative beers for all of us to try, and it was a very broad stretch of these beers. We had some things that are very traditional, stylized, and some things that are not even close to the styles that they've been described of as well. So anyway, so that's some background on the brewery. Good old boy Jim, you were going through your top three and I rudely interrupted you. So
that's okay. That's okay. I was thinking about what you said. So I will go back to my number three. You just want to kind of run through all these in order.
Fine.
Okay.
3, 2, 1,
and then I have comments about the others.
About me or the beer?
About the beer. The Mischief, I thought it was, the nose, the aroma was slightly hoppy. It was very dry. Good hop flavor, good lace. I've learned the term today. As it hangs on the glass, and I think it was a very good ale. It with the hops, it just stood out there to me. I liked it. My number two was the Saison Rue, which just was frankly awesome. It was just, to me, I don't have this. I'm leaving the sophisticated notes over to the Reverend. Mine, it was just damn good. It was just good beer. But I will go back. My number one was the name that I can't.
Bryeian.
Thank you. The Bryeian. Everything about that was good to me. I mean, it just had the right mix of flavors. It smelled good. It was the kind of thing that I would go back to and search out again.
So let's cover each of your ratings for this. So number 3 is Mischief. What's your rating for that?
I gave it a 3.
3. All right.
And the Saison Rue, I give a 4.
4. All right.
And the Bryeian, I gave a 5.
A 5. Wow. That is.
Now, I would be interested to hear the rest of the table's opinions of this.
I'm certain of that. Yeah. Reverend Mark is up next with your 3 out of the 5 here to talk about today.
Okay, I'll go in descending order here. Actually, my number 3 pick was the White Oak with the 50-50. 50% of it was aged in oak. The other 50% was just a barley wine or a strong ale. It was, of the 5 that we sampled, it was the highest in alcohol volume, which I made note of that, because you can't always tell if they, at least at first. This had a really soft aspect to it. That is, it wasn't at all hot or grainy, which I thought for that level of alcohol, that was pretty amazing.
It was 12% ABV.
Yeah, and it was very sultry and just smooth, and so that's what got it into the number 3 category for me, because of just the fact that it was such a high octane beer that did not strike me at all as that. I think that part of what sort of nudged the barley more into a dry and sort of acceptable, quaffable kind of drink was the wheat. As I noted to myself, the wheat is what makes it really neat. It just a little. I've had a few beers, so I'm sorry for. But actually, I think the wheat actually does help to give it a little bit more of a quaffable quality. That is, it's a huge beer, but I could really drink this down pretty quickly and then probably be sorry that I did, but it would be enjoyable at the time. My number 2 would be the Saison Rue. I love brewing Saisons, for one thing. It's just one of my favorite styles. There's so many ways of sort of going after sort of the recipe, if you will, and I thought they arrived at a good one. It's estery, meaning kind of fruity on one side of sort of the spectrum, but I think that, again, the rye, and it's interesting that the brewery uses a lot of rye. I think it brought about a little bit of spiciness and kind of a peppery aspect that probably wouldn't have been there if it had just been an all barley kind of grain bill. So anyway, I love the Saison Rue. My number 1, again, like Jim, would be the Bryeian. I just thought it was amazing. It was amazing. And I was really happy to hear at the beginning of our broadcast here that this is from 2 homebrewers. I mean, that just made me. It just confirmed my instincts that the best beer you will ever drink is homebrew. The worst beer you'll ever drink is homebrew, also. But these guys really dialed it in a good way. It's big, it's hoppy, it's dark. And I think that all these things kind of coalesce in a very good way. There's rye in there as well. So I would really commend the brewery in that it seems like they're doing something really interesting with their some of it is cask conditioned, but they're really big on using rye. And that's an adjunct that I have become enamored with lately. So of my scores, I would say that, let's see, the White Oak I gave a 3. The Brurey, or the Saison Rue rather, I would give a 4. And then I would give the Bryeians a 5.
Wow, how about that?
Way to go, guys. Don't ever forget, it's the homebrewers that are keeping this whole phenomenon moving along.
Yep, we got that. Good old boy, Jonathan, what do you think of the brews we have from the brewery today?
Well, I liked all of them, but a little bit of a disclaimer. I think my grading criteria is a little bit different. I'm going for the ones that I'm most pleasantly surprised by, and the ones that I would tell my friends that they would need to try.
That's what we want.
All right,
knock yourself out.
So number 3 is the White Oak.
Ooh,
and I really like that one. I think something that I kind of noticed and tasted was something. It kind of reminded me of tasting like some sort of mead that I've had before, and it's probably because the
That's
oak they age it in the oak barrels, and so it was just kind of reminiscent of that, and I really liked it. It was a lot lighter than I thought it would be.
We're going to move you to Advanced Beer 402.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Good. Yes. All right. That's good. And then the second one that I don't think I've had a Saison before, but I was pleasantly surprised by that. And I would give that a 4. And I would try that again. I would drink that a lot.
The White Oak is you're giving it 4 is Saison Rue?
White Oak is a 3.
Oh, okay.
Saison Rue is a 4.
All right.
And I fully expect to be... I think I'm going to be the only one that says this. But I really like Tart of Darkness.
Yeah, that was good.
I've never had a beer that has been tart. And it is true to its name. It's very tart. It's almost sour. It makes my mouth water, and I like it. And I think that I would drink that on almost any occasion if it was presented to me. And it's something that I think I would try and get my friends to give it a go.
So what's your SUDS rating on that one?
I'm gonna give it a 5 just because it's that ingenious to me.
All really great choices, and I always love hearing what.
And
good old boy
he's
Chip.
disappointed in me, but hey.
I will say Jonathan is. It's he's
I'm adventuresome.
like he's actually like the evangelist in a foreign land to be in a college town and to try to convince heathens that there is beer that is not
there is a life beyond InBev.
Yes. Is really it is
finding a 24-pack for $15
right.
is not the goal.
It is a it is a task that not everyone is up to.
Dude, I found the moldiest cheese on the face of the planet. It's right here behind the garbage can. Yeah, that didn't work. It's free.
They didn't like that one.
But I will say, Heart of Darkness that's just amazing.
Tart of Darkness.
Tart of Darkness.
Heart of Darkness.
It's a pun on words. I mean, a play on words.
Well, these are all really great beers, and it's difficult even for me to pick out three out of each of these. And I think one of the things I was really surprised kind of across the board was the quality of all these beers. They were really quite phenomenal, and there wasn't anything that I've had from the brewery. I've had other beers from the brewery outside of the 5 we've had today, and it really drove me to have a brewery takeover segment here talking about their beers. But this is a very broad range of what they can bring to the market, and that's what I really enjoyed about the 5 we had today. In no particular order at all, I don't have to go 3, 2, 1, would be the White Oak. And I think the thing that I was impressed with was it wasn't just the beer, it was the blending quality of this. And it comes back to a recurring theme that we've had on several different episodes, saying that blending beers is really an art form that is missing right now from the industry. And really to embrace the concept of being able to blend beers much like you would blend wines or other things. So, my tasting notes around the White Oak, or, the thing that caught me right off the bat was this is definitely an aged beer. But I didn't really taste any bourbon or anything in it. It was kind of woody, would be more of what it was reminding me of. So it was not really, whatever the aging component was, it wasn't boozy. It was just, I could tell that it had been stuck in some wood of some kind. So I don't know if there's anything around the oak that they put it in, but it wasn't really coming off to me. I wrote down the word decadent around the White Oak. It was very, this is a beer that I would probably serve at a wedding. Yeah, I mean, it's very decadent. I mean, I would say it's almost just as worthy as a wedding cake in terms of the way that it's really coming across as a really great beer. So my rating for the White Oak is actually going to be a 4. The next beer that I picked out was the Saison Rue, and the thing that actually I wrote down about this was not that it was a Saison. I wrote down it was a slightly tart, almost more like a Belgian triple, because it was very one-dimensional in terms of the underlying beer, but very creamy. I mean, I really love the mouthfeel, kind of around the Saison Rue itself. This was something that I could easily sit down with a pint of and enjoy all day long. I mean, this is a great beer. One of the things we didn't call out was some of the ABVs of this. White Oak was at 12%. The Saison Rue is at 8.5% ABV. And it just has a hint of tart about it. It's just enough to not take your palate down a path of saying, well, this is the way that we would always come up with describing Saison beer itself. The thing that I find about triples or Saisons is they go the opposite realm, which is they're actually sweeter, and this I think really does a really great service to both Saisons or a triple, either one that you were aiming for, and really introduces a really great beer. So my rating for the Saison Rue is actually a 4. You guys are looking at me like, wow, I'm not shocked about any of this, Mike.
You're repeating my scores.
Yeah, I know that.
And our scores,
Well,
pretty much.
you know.
Yeah.
Let's see where you go.
Yes.
Let's see where you go with the last one.
Yep. All right. So the last beer is the Bryeian.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, the trifecta is complete. That 3 out of 4 of us, picked the Bryeian here at the table, and
I mean, we should go meet these people. Meet the woman who brews beer. On top of that,
Rachel.
yes.
These are pretty high scores
Yes.
all around.
Well, the thing that struck me about this is I was really blown away with, again, the layers of flavor. The thing I wrote around the tasting notes is it's just very earthy, very roasty, a lot of cocoa nibs that were really, coming forward in this. I wrote down this is the best rye ever. And I am not a fan of rye beer in general. In fact, I was really shocked when I sat down. I'm like, this is a rye beer. This is a very solid beer. I think that it's not only worthy of bottling and being produced, but wow, I think that it's just really come into its own. And I'm going to give it a 5. And I don't hand those out very often. So really a phenomenal beer. The fact that it is, created by 2 home brewers, I mean, that's just all the better. I mean, I think it's really great for what the brewery has done. I'm curious if they took this to the GABF amateur competition. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that they medaled in the Pro-Am, but I'd be curious to see if they were in the lineup.
Yeah, that would be very.
They should have. They should have won.
I'm telling you, that is a phenomenal beer. I would come back to that all day long. Even though even their description of it doesn't quite fit. What? One, I wouldn't call it a rye beer. I wouldn't call it a porter because you wouldn't make porter with rye. So, I mean, the classification that it's a specialty grain and a lot of the ways it's been rated, but it's just, it's the roastiness is not overpowering in that beer. And, a lot of you really kind of picked up on that. I mean, what is it about that? Is it the roasty, the earthiness, in the Bryeian that really captured your attention?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think all of those dimensions are there in this beer, but I think it's the rye, which, mind you, most of the time when you brew a beer that has rye as an adjunct, you're only talking about 10% or less of the grist being rye. So it's just a minor component, but less is more. So I think that the rye helps to allow these other kinds of flavors to be present but not overwhelming. And I think it ties everything together. This is a very complex beer, and I think the rye is part of the sort of the genius behind this alchemy here.
Well, and I almost want to say that I think the brewery is they've left a really good recipe alone. I have a sneaky feeling that the home brewers really brought such a complex set of ingredients that it really challenged doing that on a commercial scale. And I think I have not talked with anybody here, the Bryeians or with Patrick, but if I were to put the question to them, I would say, what did you do to the original recipe? Because I think that most of them would look at each other and say, you know what? We decided to stay true to the recipe and make a really great beer and do it exactly the way the Bryeians did it.
Right. Well, and that's what happens with the Pro-Am competitions, and I because I compete in these, but not just me, there's so many other homebrewers that I know that have a lot of passion about getting into the Pro-Am competition. And what that represents is that homebrewers are brewing on a very small scale, 5-10 gallon batches, and so we can afford to experiment with all these different ingredients that a commercial brewer or a brew pub would like be very cautious about, because their investment in 500 gallons of beer versus 10 gallons would be understandable. So I think that we are sort of the test pilots of beer. That then once it's been proven, then the brew pubs and the microbreweries say, hey, maybe we should scale this up. So I love this connection between the amateur and the professional, which is signified in this beer. And I think I gave it my top score before I knew they were homebrewers. And when you said they were homebrewers, I said, okay, my day is finished.
Well, I think one of the things that's really great is the brewery has really great distribution. And even though that last beer, the Bryeian, has a bit more regional distribution just in the southwest part of the U.S., their beers are really hitting really great distribution, both internationally as well. So it's really great that the brewery itself is experiencing a lot of great stage on the international market as well. I mean, you can find their beers in Belgium and Denmark, and Japan and Netherlands, Norway. So it's really great that there's a good California brewery that's expanding, outside of the borders of the U.S. as well. So that's really great. I'm glad they're coming into their own. Would you guys go back and enjoy any of these at some point in time?
The Bryeian.
Duh.
I mean, go find it somewhere. And the Saison Rue.
Yeah, I would definitely be, snatching up a bottle. And actually, I have a bottle of the Bryeian at home that we got in Denver. So I'm going to hold on to that. And then, yeah, definitely the Saison. I mean, any of them. I like the Tart of Darkness. I thought that was a very, for a sour beer, it was very, very good. So, yeah, they're on to something here.
Yeah, I agree.
It's one of those things you don't know why you can't stop just taking sips of it, but I just keep
what?
doing it.
Of the Bryeian?
No, I've been sipping. I've
the
been
Heart of
sitting
Darkness?
Here. Yeah, the Tart of Darkness. Tart. It's still tart.
Can
Tart
I
of
quote
Darkness.
H. Allen Smith, American humorist? Put it back in the horse.
Oh, that's me.
Wow. On that literary note,
It's just
we'll work on wrapping up our segment then for today. Patrick, really appreciate all the great beer that you and all the brewmasters at the brewery make for us to enjoy. Really enjoyed tasting these. We look forward to a lot more great beers from the brewery in the future as well. I want to thank my host for joining us for this brewery takeover segment. Good old boy Jim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And if I could just figure out a direct line where I can begin to smuggle in the Bryeian, because it may be one of the greatest things I've ever put in my mouth.
Oh, there you go. Reverend Mark, as always, thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and great new year to everybody.
Good old boy Jonathan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great new demographic that I really enjoyed Jonathan bringing to the table. Let's go to Mike. I want to thank you for joining us for this segment. You can catch us online at a lot of places. You can drop us a note. Please take the time to rate this episode wherever you're listening to. If you're joining us on terrestrial radio, thank you for enjoying that, and enjoy all the sponsors through that terrestrial radio station. If you're catching us online, rate this episode as well. You can drop us a note at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com. You can catch us on Twitter at @sipsudsmokes. We have a Facebook page. You can catch lots of great things through there. Our daily tasting notes flow out through Twitter every single day. Almost every product that we taste, and which is only about 10 times more than we can even begin to talk about on the radio, make it through our Twitter feed. So it's a great place to catch up with all of our hosts through there. Most of all, I want to thank you again for joining us and ask you to keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sip, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.